So I have been chatting with a mathematician, integral mathematician, regarding trialectical theories, vortex math, Nassim, and so forth. Different. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not very skilled in logics either, but I find it very interesting. When I took my formal logic and so forth in university, I always felt things were wrong. Came along dialectics, and I thought, okay, that's a little bit better. It includes time, sort of, at least. Formal logic doesn't really. Everything's absolute. And although he does, this individual, Carey, who I've been speaking with, he does argue that there could be different adaptations of formal logic that might make sense of time better. And that I do remember coming across something like that in logic and philosophy. But so we were particularly addressing trialectical logic and vortex math mostly. He was saying there are some elements of the system he thinks has some flaws, and I agree. The main reason I've been using trialectics is the tripart model and the notion that it includes kind of an evolutionary core, and from there I think that indeed maybe like Ken Wilber's 20 tenets are closer to a logical system, and he points to vortex math as even being closer still. The point that we both had resonance on is in particular, like, Ken Wilber's model tends to be static, I believe, and he seemed to at least be jiving with that. Although he doesn't want to make anything present to Ken. I guess he does have his PhD. That's the way I'm understanding what he's talking about. Mathematician proper. But so he's saying, he seems to be presenting to me the idea that he agrees with me that maybe Ken's model is perhaps a little bit overly static, and that through our interactions with the world, that is where we understand new logical systems. And so the focus could be a little bit more on adaptive new technological systems, as important as meditative practices for stage development, where Wilber, although he makes room for it in his quadrant system, he says mostly the way to transform the world is through yourself, through contemplative practices, and that's true probably on the states level, which has resonant effects in the stages or how we deal and cope with the world. But he seems to be in agreement with me on how we manifest new understandings of the world sort of is through hands-on work. It's like through the actual manipulation of things we see new logics. Now, he differs on me in the following point. He says that these logics come from sort of a non-dual reality. They're sort of ever-present, sort of Plato's recognition. We recognize, we come into remembrance of these new logical systems. And I think there might be some truth in that, so aliens, for example, might have greater wisdom of logics than we do, and so these aliens have laid down patterns of thought that we are in fact sort of recognizing, remembering. But I still have this sort of, I might be wrong in it. He's obviously, the way he speaks to me, he sounds like he has deep contemplative state experiences, so I can't really speak into that, but just intuitively I feel into the idea that logics in themselves are sort of evolutionary, and so that as we move into our understanding, our interaction with the world, we're actually manifesting logics, we're actually creating these logics in a sense as we go. But for the human realm, we've probably not really created any of them, because if you believe that there are for example, billions of other alien races out there, then we like this noospheric element, we're actually just tapping into, maybe for the most part, the logics of other beings. But then there would be, at the cutting edge of creation, the frothy edge of what is manifesting, you might argue that indeed new logical systems are being made manifest in the cosmic sphere of God, if you will. Maybe. That's one way to hold that. And that's just, to me, I think that's just a difference in theology, maybe. I feel more of the co-creator element, and he seems to be more of the always laid down sort of God mind presentation. It's more of a being and becoming sort of emphasis split, perhaps. Very much smarter than I can tell that by his responses, but I feel I got something out of it, which was nice, and I hope I shared that in a way that you could understand. If you're interested on the trialectical side, he has a qualm, I think, with sort of this notion of material manifestation points, which is sort of a primary word usage that Oscar, the creator of trialectic, uses, and so it doesn't make a strong distinction between beings and physicality, and I understand that, and so some of the rules that it plays with, I think there is a general recognition that higher and lower are, in a sense, relative to the holonic nature, although he doesn't use holons as his words, descriptors. But I think that there is that general understanding of the distinction there. Otherwise, yeah, a lot of it's to do with what he also means by what a higher MMP is and what a lower MMP is and what the relationships are exactly. How would you explain that? And he seems to think, as I sort of do too, that Wilber's 20 Tenets and Sex, Ecology, and Spirituality are more comprehensive in that regard. They don't mix up, for example, a heap, like a heap or a being. So, you know, and I don't think MMPs necessarily do either, but it makes it much clearer that, you know, a dumbbell isn't a being. The atoms, you might say, are separate beings, but the human isn't. The human is far more of an autonomous, individuated self-sense, whereas a dumbbell is just a heap of atoms, if you will. Where some people, and I understand, I'm kind of agnostic on the issue to some extent, where some people might say, okay, there's a problem here, is that, you know, that notion of Gaia, and then even bigger, the universe, universe, is that, in a sense, a being? And is the universe, in a sense, a being? And I've felt for a long time, in a sense, that the universe might just be that. And I think, in a sense, Wilber does leave room for it, but he does draw the line at sort of the solar system and the Earth, and he says, you know, there's no seemingly autonomy within the solar system and the Earth, but maybe we're not looking from a big enough scope. Maybe really where the intelligence lies is sort of the true full universe, so you're going a huge step from the individuated self, human, to that. It's like massive leap, right? Gaia consciousness is something that Wilber often doesn't really give space for, maybe. But he does talk about the noosphere, so like Wilber is very complex, and I enjoy trying to hold that. And I'm just silly. Blessed.